Hi, everyone. Welcome to second day of DataWeek 2013 Conference and Expo. I'm Geoff, one of the founders of DataWeek. And we have with us, I guess we'll do it, if you guys want to introduce yourselves. We have a panel focusing on industry-specific data hubs. So what we're going to go into is a talk around not like data as a service or data marketplaces or bringing in external data specific for what data is available, what APIs are publishing data, what can I build on the data, but more, what are use cases for bringing data together from external sources? So I think that I'll just let you guys introduce yourselves if you want to say your name, your company, and then the role your company plays in kind of like bringing together external data for enterprise problems. So go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I'm Tim Baskerville with HG Data. The role we play is we track, monitor, and produce a sort of massive census of where enterprise technology is deployed. And we look at, we're sort of vertical market agnostic. We look at B2B use cases for information in hundreds of thousands of locations in the U.S. and elsewhere as well, but primarily North America at this time. That's our primary business.
And I'm Bob Preston. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Alliances. Our company, Healthcare Data Solutions, provides in-depth data on healthcare professionals, healthcare organizations, and our data is used for a couple of major use cases, certainly across various sales and marketing applications from master data to CRM to business intelligence, but also on the compliance side to support state and federal regulations on reporting for Sunshine Act applications.
Hi, I'm Vimal Vail. I'm the Vice President of Partner Solutions Strategy for Dun & Bradstreet. So D&B is a referential data provider. We have the world's largest commercial database. We have 220 million commercial entities in our database, and our data tends to serve a foundational or core identity need as part of all these use cases that we will discuss.
Hello, my name is Blake Sitney. I'm the CEO of Profound Networks. Profound compiles comprehensive digital data assets, including a comprehensive IP address database mapped to their corresponding network provider. We also compile a 200 million plus record domain file and about 45 categories of technology mapped to those domains. Our collaboration with Dun & Bradstreet includes mapping those domains to their corresponding DUNS number, which allows for integration into the D&B data exchange, or a data hub, if you will. And that's one of the aspects of the conversation that we'll be discussing today.
So yeah, I think that the opportunity kind of facing this panel that we're trying to understand is how do you build a data hub or a hub of data sources to solve a specific problem for the enterprise. And I know that maybe you just want to say a minute or two around I know that the Dun & Bradstreet Data Exchange sort of serves as a hub for a lot of people who are on this panel. So how does that hub of data work? Like, are you guys creating new products out of the data that you've brought together, or are you sort of more of a marketplace between data vendors and data buyers?
So I wouldn't view the data exchange as a marketplace, right? It is more of an exchange in its traditional sense. So let's think about the typical problem that customers used to face. They have to bring together external data assets and combine it with their internal customer data asset, right? So that was just two data sources. The process of integrating those data sources, the process of being able to consume those data sources. Today's problem is much more complex. You have to source from 4 or 5 different highly specialized niche vertical data providers. You then have to integrate those data assets into a consumable manner, right, on a foundational layer, and then be able to combine it and consume it within your CRM systems or your ERP systems or your MDM systems. So the way the data exchange was designed is to make sure we provide a foundational data layer, a data capability, with the ability to link multiple data sets using the DUNS number. And then we bring together these highly specialized vertical specific data assets through the multiple providers, right? So when a customer or an end user needs to consume it, they're looking not for one data set or for one provider, they're actually looking to solve a problem that spans across multiple providers. And that's what the data exchange solves for.
All right. And then the other members of the panel, are you guys aggregating data from like open sources or from like other data vendors? And like are you publishing data as APIs? Like what role do you play in the kind of that data workflow process? Like where is your value added in terms of like where you source from and who you're publishing to?
I can't speak for everyone, but I think everyone on the panel is basically creating a unique data set. It's not an aggregation of aggregators. The hub serves as a marketplace, and I think the participants for the hub were largely selected, I imagine, because they have non-conflicting information that can, when woven together, can provide a full answer for a number of B2B vertical market users of information, whether it's for marketing or sales or compliance or all the other use cases that we could potentially talk about.
Yeah, to build on what Tim said, our company is the same way. We start with over 600 sources of information, and what we're really trying to do is to create that comprehensive profile, depth of deep data, if you will, around the healthcare marketplace, right? And the reason is that there are customers out there that have very specific needs. Dun & Bradstreet does a wonderful job of providing that core information, that foundational data, but they need more, right? They want more data. And so we provide the depth of information that they require to actually execute more efficiently and more effectively around the healthcare segment.
In the case of Profound Networks, we compile data that's publicly available on the internet via the DNS system is a major source of information for our data sets. And the challenge is mapping the various freely available data assets to specific entities and organizations. And the challenge that Profound has endeavored to undertake is creating the map between a domain and a business record on a global basis. And there are various tools that we've built to enable us to facilitate that mapping, but ultimately to operationalize that information into the data stream of an organization. There needs to be some carrier, some unique ID, and we found that the DUNS number is a great vehicle to attach data assets to for easier integration into the systems, into the decision-making systems of enterprises on a global basis. And that's one of the attractive components about being a partner in the D&B Data Exchange, is that they've got the DUNS number, which is that ring, if you will, that various data elements can be appended to and brought into the decisioning systems of legacy enterprise systems.
And I know that that one of the use cases we were discussing is looking at bringing together these kind of vertically specific data hubs. You guys are the data providers into one integrated whole for solving a certain enterprise problem. I know that we were discussing the use case of bringing together data from like you guys providing these sources of data around and like kind of pivoting as an index of the Dun & Bradstreet Data Exchange around the use case of selling to the healthcare industry. And I kind of want to let you open with like in what way Data Exchange becomes a hub for like the customer intelligence, the sales intelligence for a specific industry like healthcare, since I think you had like a pretty clear picture on how you can like a disparate, vertically specific can become one use case. So if you want to kind of go into that.
Yeah, so when you think about someone who sells into the healthcare space, traditionally the salesperson had to look up information about a hospital, maybe find out who are the physicians or the healthcare practitioners who work at that hospital, and then they would start pounding the phones. That has changed tremendously today. If you want to sell technology capabilities or IT infrastructure capabilities into a hospital system, the range of information needs you have to be able to make to have an effective conversation with a buyer within that organization has changed tremendously. So at a foundational level, you first need to understand, is this the entity that you want to do business with, right? So is it a hospital? Is it a practice? Is it a part of a larger healthcare system? What are the relationships across those different entities, and who do you contact? Is this a viable business? Are they going to stay around for the next 1 year to pay you? Right? Those are questions, those are more foundational questions you have about that entity. Right? That's the first step. Building on that, you need other specialized pieces of information. So as an example, right, the attributes of what is in that hospital. So
Right. So, and Vimal is absolutely right. There is a wave of change happening right now in the healthcare space, especially when you start looking at health systems. Private practices are being bought up by the larger health systems. So really understanding your customer and understanding what the opportunity is, it's really critical to help these organizations target not only which organizations they want to go after, but who within those organizations they want to go after. So building on what Vimal was saying, you need to know more about that entity. You need to know more than just the fact that they own these different practice locations. You need to know which physicians, which providers, and what kind of providers are in those practices, right? What kind of hospital is it by specialty? How many patients do they see, for example? How many beds are in that hospital? In that health system, are there also long-term care facilities? Do they have an accountable care organization? Who's a member of that organization? This all impacts the ability of the salesperson or the marketing person in your organization to target effectively and execute efficiently.
Yeah, I think that's right. The part of the piece that we would provide in this context, looking at healthcare specifically as a vertical, we would look sort of behind the firewall and paint a picture for the many thousands of hospitals and other installations across the country and what they have deployed. What is their stack? We track 3,000 specific brands, categories, and even models of hardware, software, and services. And to the extent that you're trying to sell into healthcare and you have a technology solution, or you're dependent upon technology to implement a non-technology solution, which can happen, you may need to know that as part of the context. But the information that, for example, my firm provides, without the context of these other pieces, it's not as valuable. And that's really where the whole hub concept, 1 and 1 equals, 7. That's the logic here.
And to expand on that, that notion of building a profile of hospitals, the role that Profound data could play would be looking at the list of hospitals and the size of their networks, for example, the total number of IP addresses assigned to a specific domain, tracking the rate of network growth over time. So if you're an IT company like Cisco, for example, you may want to prioritize the hospitals that have demonstrated that their network, their public IP network, is dramatically expanding to try to sell Cisco routers, hub switches, and other solutions of that nature. Or perhaps you may look at a website's hosting provider or their cloud services and see if they're transitioning on-premises data centers into cloud instances. It's a new world that we're entering into with IT and telecom, and I think that the applications of this type of data affect the healthcare industry and virtually every other vertical as well. And certainly the data hub that we are all part of, that we are all contributing our data assets towards, there are use cases across many different verticals that segmentation can be favorably applied to select the best candidates for a specific offer or other type of opportunity.
So just to bring those pieces together, I'm going to use an example. So I'm from New Jersey, so we have Morristown Memorial Hospital close to where I live. If I'm selling IT technology equipment to a hospital, I know that someone from Morristown Memorial Hospital visited my website. I work for Cisco, I work for Dell. I know someone from that hospital visited my website. I know that that hospital has 100 beds, 25 physicians, and has 7 different specialties. I also know that their enterprise architecture is built on an Oracle stack, and they use Cisco for their networking. I know all these pieces of information, but they're not discrete data sources. They're actually pre-integrated data sets that come in as part of a single, either a single packet or a single transaction. And more importantly, I also know the organizational structure of Morristown Memorial Hospital. It's part of Atlantic Healthcare. Atlantic Healthcare is one of the fastest growing healthcare systems in the country. So if I'm a salesperson, I know whom I can call because I know the physicians at that location. I know their roles. I know what parts of the practice are growing the fastest. So you can create this interesting analytic capability that spans data assets that no one entity can provide. Right? So we're solving 2 problems there. A sourcing problem, right, which is the need to source and maintain 4 different sourcing relationships, vendor relationships. And second is the integration problem. I would have had to buy this data, integrate it, load it into my CRM. You don't have to do that because of the data exchange.
Yeah, just to build on that, Vimala is absolutely right. Over the past probably, 30 years that I've been in this business, one of the things that I've seen is that companies spend so much time trying to manage data and not spending enough time executing around the data. The beauty of the data exchange is that the pre-linking of the data enables that execution. And it really takes away from the resources that have to be required for data management, data stewarding, et cetera.
Yeah, I think I could reinforce that point. Even at fairly high-level customers, large enterprises who are trying to look at the marketing and sales use case, even in examples like that, where you'd think that there would be very sophisticated data handling, processing, wrangling capabilities, it's finite, it's limited. There's a limited amount of talent, and many of these companies can't really effectively bring, for example, these 3 different data sets that we're talking about, bring them in-house, effectively integrate them, normalizing all that data from these different sources and drawing that themselves. That's an enormously inefficient process, and I think what the Vertical Data Hub addresses is trying to solve that for the customer.
Is this fundamentally working around a CRM like Salesforce? Like, where is this data coming together, and like what kind of tools are making it actionable?
Well, the mix of CRM solutions is quite vast. Salesforce is one of the largest providers in the space, but you have a strong number of other competitors. So I think that absorbing the data and operationalizing the data via CRM or specific campaigns or feeding the right people with the right data set is a secondary challenge. The data hub itself organizes the data from disparate sources, unifies it according to a specific key, and then makes that data available through virtually any platform that the customer has. It's CRM agnostic once they absorb that information. The data can be delivered via API, a JSON call, XML, and integrations with back-end systems can be facilitated with an API integration. But I think that it's a good point to raise. How does the data leave the hub and get absorbed by the institution? But that's, in a certain way, that's a secondary step to the initial step of organizing that data in one integrated data hub.
Yes, I guess I'll probably end this. I want to hear each of your answers to this question. But obviously, it's a step forward to successfully deploy a data hub or a data exchange as a hub of sources around a specific use case. For example, selling technology to hospitals. So my question for each of you is, building on what you guys have right now, like the paths for your companies, the paths for your partnerships, what's your vision for how sales should work, or how sales should work in a data-driven enterprise?
Well, I'll jump in on that. I think it's always going to be a blend. I think it's true with most of the original data providers up here. You sell direct because there are some customers that you could meet their needs best in that way. There are specific use cases you can address that cannot be addressed through aggregation, but you're going to sell through channel partners, through such an entity as a data exchange, and other aggregators which have specific solutions. So there is no one size fits all, and I think that's the main message here. You've got to pick the right tool, the right distribution platform for the type of customer and the kind of use case.
I will tell you our strategy is clearly cloud-based data, and what my role in the whole organization is to help integrate that data into applications. So a good example was one of maybe top 10 pharma company that we talked to the other day had 50 different applications that required this kind of information, both the DMV content as well combined with the HDS content together. So we see it as being able to connect at the points, to get it right at the point of origin within the organizations, and then keeping it right within the organization. So that's what our strategy is really to get in front of it and make sure that the data gets right, whether it's CRM, whether it's enterprise applications, whether it's accounts payable applications, travel and expense, get it right at the point, keep it right.
I think that we're seeing a lot of API integration facilitating the distribution of data. Salesforce being a very major component. You have Eloqua, Marketo, you have various other legacy CRM applications, Siebel, Oracle products. Once you have the API integration set up with, integrated with the Data Hub, and I know DMB is working on, they've already got several major APIs integrated now, and more will come over time. But once the customer has selected the segmentation mix and pulled the data in that they want to target, the channels of streaming that data into the right hands will largely be facilitated via API integration. So I think that reducing the complexity of absorbing that data will directly increase the effectiveness that companies can have in terms of being a data-driven organization. And not only will this streamline sales and marketing and so on, but it could also have transformative impact for the company at a strategic level. And companies will have to adapt their processes to absorb new types of data. But I also think that new kinds of companies will emerge that are built from the ground floor up to take advantage of this integrated data flow that's now becoming available. So we're going to see large established companies making big changes to take in this new type of integrated data set. And I also think that we're going to see startup companies evolving that are designed to absorb this new type of data that's coming out. And it's going to be a very exciting world for business as these two types of organizations evolve over time.
So from a DNB perspective, we're not viewing the data exchange as an aggregation play, right? It is more of a curation play. So highly specialized, vertical specific information assets. When you bring them together and you connect them using a foundational connectivity like the Duns number, you've then created this federated model of data assets. You can do that across different industry verticals. Where it becomes a really powerful asset is when you build that linkage across a foundational layer, and then you start connecting the dots at different layers, right? So one example could be sector level information, right? Different data assets might have different information capabilities on different economic sectors, different zip codes, different phone area codes, different hospital specialty types. You can create those connectivity across different data points, across multiple data assets. So there is a business intelligence and analytics capability that just does not exist today using any single data asset that becomes possible because of the data exchange. And that only happens when you target the providers and the participants on the exchange in a highly selective manner and make sure they're adding value to specific business use cases.
Great. All right. Well, is there any final thoughts on the topic around like industry vertical data hubs? But I think we can probably. Did anyone want to add something to in terms of like their company's role in terms of like how not just like how sales should work, but what a data-driven enterprise should look like?
Well, data is the new fuel. Just like oil was the fuel of the industrial age, data is the fuel for the modern age today. And while I can't say, how a data-driven company will look like, I can tell you that if you're not a data-driven company, you're going to face serious challenges moving forwards. Absorbing and operationalizing a flood of data. In fact, let me rephrase that. Today, companies are inundated with data. There's an enormous flood of data. There's no shortage of data out there. However, there is a shortage of the intelligent interpretation of that information, the narrowing down, the finding the needles in the haystack, and pulling out the valuable pieces of data that drive true value for the organization. And I think that companies that are able to handle or somehow intuitively find the value in that large stream of data will be the ones that succeed in the future. And what that entails is a disciplined approach to data evaluation and data governance and finding ways to pull the valuable parts of that data stream to drive value within your organization. So I would say that a data-driven company is the one that successfully interprets and narrows down the huge stream of data that most companies are inundated with today, and finding ways to pull out the important parts that drive true value for their business.
I like that. I think that's probably a good note to end on for this talk and for DataWeek. I think we're going to start segueing into our startup challenge. Dun & Bradstreet's actually going to be hosting a reception. There's an open bar out there. So I'd like to thank you guys for coming out, and I'll see you guys out in the reception. Thanks.